episode 16, and today we are going to be covering the topic of mindfulness. This is something we've been talking a lot about recently. I personally deal with a very untrained, unfocused, undisciplined brain, and I find it very hard to remember to be mindful throughout the day. So yes, we wanted to cover the topic of mindfulness. So, firstly, what is mindfulness? What is it?
What's your take on it?
Well, it's kind of in the word, isn't it? Mindful, being fully
mind.
fully mind, but having your mind fully focused on what you're doing.
What are you being mindful of?
Your experience throughout your day. Of the moment and of the things that you're doing throughout your day, doing those things with mindfulness.
What does that mean?
It means not being caught up in your brain in the past or in the future.
If you're caught up in your brain, are you not just being mindful of the contents of your brain? Can you be mindful of your contents of your brain?
Yeah.
So what are you getting at? What are you trying to get at? What good is mindfulness? If mindfulness means being very present, if you're being unmindful, essentially it means you're not noticing, you're not seeing, you're not paying attention. If you're being unmindful of me, then you're not really paying attention to me. You're not really noticing me. You're caught up in other things. You're being mindful of other things. So what kind of mindfulness are you talking about? Are you not always mindful? Whether you're mindful of the contents of your thoughts, mindful of yourself, mindful of what? Are you not always mindful? Or are we talking about, are you trying to get at a particular form of mindfulness? If you wanted to call it a total mindfulness or a full mindfulness.
That one.
The full version?
Yeah.
Okay, so why? What are we getting at?
Well, what is it?
What is a full mindfulness?
What is a full mindfulness?
What is anything that is full, total? The total version of what? Attention. What does mindfulness mean? To be aware. To be a full mind. So is one's experience present with the whole of the experience of the present, in which we are being fully mindful of the present moment, which is mindfulness of mindfulness, mindfulness itself, the full present mind of experience. Is your experience currently one that takes into account the whole of present experience, at which point you're being fully mindful? Otherwise, let's say you're focused on just the contents of your thoughts. Or now you're being mindful of your thoughts. You are that mind. So are you the full mind, or are you just a little bit of it? What are you focused on? Mindfulness practice is about bringing our limited perspective or limited viewpoint, taking it from a limited point of view and expanding that to take into account the whole of the present experience. That's what people call mindfulness. Actually, it's impossible not to be mindful, because you are that energy of life which is mindful. To tune into any element of the present moment in any capacity is to be mindful of that element. But are you just stuck in your brain all the time, only mindful of your thoughts? Or is your mindfulness practice about bringing your mindfulness back to a total awareness of the whole, which is what real mindfulness practice is for? That's what you're supposed to be doing with it. So where do you want to go from here? What is mind?
What is mind?
Right? To be mindful. Okay, then in comparison to mindful, are we considering mind empty or mind not full?
Yep, we can do that.
Okay, so let's consider full mind. What is full mind? The totality of the experience. When you go into a shopping centre and you want the full experience of the shop, well, you need to go around every aisle, look at everything and taste everything and buy everything. That's the full shopping experience. Clearly, if there's something you've left out, you haven't had the full shopping experience. So, what is full mind then? The full mind. Not just a little bit of it, not just a sliver of it, not just the slight little individual's perspective of it, not just a little bit of it, but the whole of the experience. So if we say being mindful of your day, what does that mean? From morning to night, from the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep, you want to be mindful. What does that mean? You want to be fully in the whole day. You want to be fully present with the mind of the whole day, which means from morning to night you are totally here, totally present with the whole of the experience, and then you can say you have been mindful of the day. You have had a full day. Okay, now what?
Well, what's mind empty?
Okay, well, there's two different ways to answer that question. If we're using that term, mind empty, as a comparison of mindful, we could say, essentially, we're referring to if you're not being mindful. There's no such thing as mind empty in that sense. It's just a term used to describe the opposite of to describe not being mindful. You're being mind empty.
Right.
That means you're not being present. You're not even aware that you're here. You're not even aware of what's going on. You're like a shadow or a ghost. You're not present with the life that you're having. You're elsewhere, in the brain, in the thoughts, thinking of past events or future ideas or future places. You're not even here directly having the experience. You're like an empty shell. But that is different from emptiness. If you wanted to get more deep into mystical language, emptiness, this idea of emptiness is something that has caused monks and mystics to chase their own tail for thousands of years in an attempt to figure out, what does this mean, emptiness? What does emptiness mean? Why do we say that life is empty? Why do we say that mind is empty? What does that mean? I don't know whether or not I want to just flat out explain what it means, because what's the point in just giving you the answer? But if you look at the present moment very deeply, can you see a meaning behind it? Can you see When you're looking directly at the present moment, it's impossible to give it meaning. It is empty of all meaning. It is empty of all comparison. The undifferentiated whole of life has no meaning. You cannot apply anything to it. You cannot apply any concept to it. You cannot, and you can't take anything away. It is absolutely whole and complete. And so no added meaning can be applied to it. The manifestation of the present moment in reality has no other, has no past, has no future. The present moment is totally independent and alone in and of itself. You can't apply anything to it. You can't make it anything. You can't change it. Its nature is empty. It is empty of all comparison, of all objective or subjective experience. Let's try and explain it another way, okay? Before the universe comes into being, what is there? Nothing. Okay? So the universe comes into being and enters into this cycle of incarnation, being, becoming, being, and then ending, at which point it returns to nothing. So if the origin of the universe is empty and there's nothing there, and then it goes through this process in which anything that comes into being is temporary and destined to go on a process to end and then return to nothing, can you say there is ever anything there? Is there really ever anything there? Or you're just watching the process. You're watching a process of something transforming which has come from nothing and returns to nothing. So is there really ever anything there? Or is everything that you perceive actually just nothing? A middle ground of nothing? So in reality it's empty. You can't actually get anywhere in it. You can't go anywhere in it. You can't do anything with it. You can't ever change its nature. It doesn't matter what thoughts you want to apply to it, what ideas you want to apply to it, what opinions or judgments or religions you want to build up around it, because of it, none of them have any meaning. They all return to emptiness at the end of it. So whatever grand schemes you're cooking up, it doesn't matter which point you're at. In the process of absolute nothing, before matter comes into being, before the universe appears, it doesn't matter what you make or what opinion or what judgment you want to have. In that whole process, you could have 10,000 years of meaning that you've conjured up. A religion or a tradition that has carried on for 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 years. In the grand scheme of things, it's empty. It means nothing. It is the same dance of life returning into itself. And you will never ever change that. It doesn't matter what you do. You are empty. The whole identity of yourself, the whole meaning of life and purpose of life is utterly empty. Now, there is a very important, we'll try to get back onto mindfulness in a minute, but to grasp at emptiness, so this is another element, as you begin to as you begin to come to terms with the reality of emptiness, you begin to study it, your brain begins to grasp at emptiness, which means, well, now you think the universe is empty. So your brain starts to say, well, what's the point? There's no point in anything. Everything ends and it's all pointless, it's all meaningless, it's all empty. And that's called grasping at emptiness. But the fundamental realization to be had about emptiness, we've deviated here from the point of mindfulness. But the fundamental point to grasp about emptiness is that the whole of the universe at all times is empty. Whether there is form or not form, appearance or no appearance, any of the various states of mind that you might experience or attain to, they're all presently empty. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of them. It doesn't mean you have to despise them. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to engage in life. It means that to be mindful, to be fully mindful and present with life as it's happening, is to be emptiness. when one is witness of presence directly, mind cannot grasp. It is like throwing objects into the sky. They just don't hit anything. They go up, they come down. With no interference, no negative effect, no positive effect. They're flat, they're just neutral. They're in and of themselves self-contained, all experience. To help kind of come to terms with this idea of emptiness is like if you have a glass that's empty and you take another object. To fill up this glass, you must take another object and apply it to it. We have a liquid, so we take the liquid and we put it in the glass. Now we say the glass is full, but the universe has no other object. The container of the universe itself, there's no other thing you can put inside it. It is in and of itself an empty object, and there is nothing else that you can add to it or take away from it. It is just in and of itself already complete. And so this idea of emptiness does not mean there's nothing in it, as in what we normally logically interpret as empty. This container is empty because there's nothing in it. It means its nature is emptiness. It can't be added to or subtracted from. We'll move on in a minute because it probably gets a bit obscure for people. But another interpretation of the term emptiness is in the negative. Not negative as in bad, but the negative as in the opposite. So the term given to the word used to describe the nature of reality is it is negative, meaning it is not. It is like minus. It is in fact not. Although it appears as something everywhere all at once, in fact it is not. It is negative. It's kind of like looking at a mirror and seeing a whole universe in the reflection. There's nothing really there, but it looks like there's a whole universe in it. You can see infinitely off into the mirror, into the reflection, beings everywhere, but actually what you're looking at is a reflection, a negative of the original. So very complex. In terms of practicality, practically wanting to see emptiness, if you look at the breath directly, you will realize that the in-breath contains the out-breath. Although you think you breathe in and you breathe out, you don't. It's just a single breath. It's really one, so there's no comparison. The in-breath has no comparison, and the out-breath has no comparison, but you have to be looking directly at it in order to see that. It's only going in a single direction, the breath. And if all of that upwards and downwards movement of breath, if you watch it, and eventually it settles and becomes so still that it disappears, what meaning could you give to the inward and the outward breath anymore? It looks like it's there as you're breathing in and you're breathing out. But if you watch it so deeply and so intensely that it disappears totally, what meaning could you apply to the in-breath and the out-breath now? But you have a concept, an idea that you breathe in and you breathe out. It really looks like that. It looks like you're breathing in and breathing out. But if you look at it very deeply, it will disappear. So what about now all of your meaning and all of your sciences of the breath and all of your yoga and all of your tradition of these human beings walking around thinking they're breathing? If you disappear, what does all of that mean? Empty. It's empty, in fact. In reality, it's empty. That was a huge diversion, but we haven't really touched upon the topic of emptiness. That might not be something that's very relevant to you, but if there are people watching these videos who are very serious about the cultivation of spiritual enlightenment and deep mysticism, there's a guarantee they will have come across the term emptiness before, especially if they're interested in Buddhist language and Buddhist terminology. Mm-hmm. Do you want to go into that anymore, or do you want to move on from that and get back to the mindfulness stuff?
Well, maybe we'll save that for another podcast or another time, and we'll continue on with the mindfulness trajectory.
All right.
So Uh,
Good luck.
yeah. The questions seem so like shallow now.
It's fine. They're all relevant. They're all relevant to the relative, based off where you're at. But you use the term, I pulled the term up, mind empty, which has much deeper meaning in the world of...
I've done that a couple of times now.
It has a much deeper meaning in the world of mysticism, emptiness, empty mind. What is that? No mind. That's a different subject. We can leave that for another day if you want to. It's a very deep subject.
Okay, yeah, I'm not prepared for that today. Okay, so what are the challenges for people with trying
Did we get to any kind of clarification of mindfulness and what that means?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
To be totally present.
Yes.
As mind, with mind. Fully.
Yes.
Mind. Not just your thinking, not just your brain, not just what you think is your personal mind, which is really just psychology, but with the whole of the energy of the present moment, the whole of the energy of the present experience of life. That is to be mindful. Now you can practice mindfulness of walking, or mindfulness of the in-breath and the out-breath, or mindfulness of the sound. So these are particular practices. Let's say walking meditation, to be mindful, specifically mindful. Place all of your attention and focus in the soles of the feet and really feel that as it's touching the floor, the sensation of the feet walking. To be mindful of the sensation of the soles of the feet as you're walking. Okay, then what does that tell you about mindfulness? Essentially that means put yourself in the feet. Oh, so you are mindful. Put yourself, all of your attention and focus in the breath. Okay, so now you're being mindful of the breath. So you're putting all of your attention and focus in that area. So you are in fact mindful. The thing that can be mindful is you. So where are you? Are you present? Are you being mindful of the total experience of what it means to be present? And what does that mean? A total awareness of all of the senses. Whether it's sensation of the body, sound, sight, any kind of sensation that may arise, even thought, perception, cognition. To be fully aware of all of that. Why? What's the point in it?
What is the point in it?
Well, there's a fundamental realization to be had there. In that the fundamental realization is that you're actually invisible. You think you're the body, you think you're the brain, you think you're the one who's doing all of this. But actually, if mindfulness becomes total and full, it is unavoidable to you in that moment that actually there is this happening of life which includes a body and a brain, various perceptions and the operation of perception itself, not to mention a process of thinking containing an identity of an individual which is connected to the whole of the world, the experience of sensation which cannot happen with a world. A world must be here in order for there to be a body here to experience that. All of that is actually self-contained. The world of humanity and the earth itself are the same thing, and the sun and the light of the sun, which sustains the earth, which feeds the human beings, all of that is actually the same thing, and it's not you. You are something invisible, something aware of that movement. All of that movement, there is no individual you in it. All of the beings and people which are contained in the experience of being here on the earth, all of these temporary little identities, temporary bodies, so-called individual beings pop up, and you're aware of the whole of the movement of life, including all of those bodies, identities, energies of the earth, the sun, the moon, the stars. None of those bodies, none of those manifestations can actually contain you. You're the awareness which is behind all of that. Now this realization comes to you through the practice of mindfulness, because when your mindfulness is not full, that means there is a gap in your mindfulness, and in that gap, this identity, this so-called individual identity, arises again. But if your mindfulness becomes full, there is no room for any kind of individual identity to arise. There is only a total awareness of the oneness of all of life, in that there is this invisible awareness totally present behind every state of mind and every physical manifestation of form, every person, every entity, every being, every animal, every planet, every dot of energy that you could find anywhere throughout the whole corner of reality, the whole corner of the body of reality, space and time. You are present with all of that. And all of that is kind of moving and fluctuating from one extreme to another via a kind of polarity of existence, the yin-yang, the duality of momentum, the breath in and the breath out. But even though all of that movement happens, comes into being and then ceases, the coming and going of life, you are actually aware and present behind that all the time. So none of that is your true identity. The body, the earth, the sun, the stars, the moon, anything that's physical, material, is not actually your true identity. It's like an aging face that you have. You think you have a solid face, but the whole time it's aging and growing older, so you don't actually have a solid appearance. So mindfulness is about having that full, undeniable realization about the nature of your reality. You, what we really are, behind all of these bodies, behind all of these words and these thoughts. So mindfulness as a practice is about that. Now, how does it work? If you place your attention in a sound, present sound, hearing, the experience of hearing, you think you can hear something. Okay, well, tune into what you think you can hear, which means tune into the sound, the happening of the sound happening, being heard. Now, if you watch that long enough, you'll suddenly, instead of being caught up in the thing that you think you can hear, the object, suddenly you become aware of the experience of actually hearing. Hearing is happening. Now, behind hearing happening, there is a perception that you can perceive the hearing happening. And if you can maintain that, eventually you'll realize that there isn't anybody behind the hearing, actually. There is only a hearing happening. And the hearing that's happening is connected to the object that is being heard. It's actually one. There isn't any actual identity behind the hearing. There is nobody behind it. It's an object, subject, self-contained experience which cannot be fragmented anymore. Now, when you can see that, well, I'll put it this way, you suddenly become very present with the actual manifestation of life on the edge, smack bang right on the edge of life as it's appearing. In other words, as the universe is coming into being, you are right there with it. Which means you've realized the seat that God sits in. So the force of life, the true awareness, the living force of life, which is giving rise to life itself, the whole universe, you're there. You're in that space. Now that can happen for you if you could develop enough concentration, enough focus, enough mindfulness to be present with the experience of hearing. And that's a documented reality. That's a documented truth, documented throughout dozens of traditions of human mysticism. Multiple cases of people not claiming to, but having found and realized the nature of reality simply by following the sound of present experience. You can do the same through the breath. You can do the same through sight. If you just sit and watch an object, to stare at it long enough to step out of your thinking, which contains yourself, what you think you are, to suddenly have that vision expand and experience a kind of deepening of the perception of the fact that you're seeing, I might have said hearing there, but I'm talking about visual sight, to recognize that sight is a happening in and of itself, of which you don't control, and you're not actually in it. You're observer of it. You're witness to sight, as you are to sound, as you are to sensation. Even you are witness as you are even witness to thinking and the psychology itself. It's all self-contained, and we also call that natural evolution of the spirit, as it is living through being, through various forms of being. All of this can be realized through mindfulness. So that's what it's for. That's why you do it. That's maybe a little bit about how you do it, although it was probably a little bit too quick, fast, maybe. That's what mindfulness is for. You want to realize enlightenment? Well, get here first, be fully mindful, develop the concentration, the focus, the absolute intensity of present watching. That's meditation. And take in everything, a total attention. Or become hyper crystallized on a single sensation or a single sense. And don't leave it until, like a funnel, you're so hyper focused on a single sensation or sound or object of meditation, sight, perception, or something, even sensation of just present touch, to suddenly be so hyper focused on that sensation, but while hyper focused on it, to suddenly have that perception of awareness expand around, through it and around it. It's like in Zen they use the term squeezing through the eye of a needle. You know what happens when you squeeze through the eye of a needle? You become so hyper condensed into the tiniest atom of experience, but then you squeeze through, and when you do, you explode into a whole cosmos on the other side. A whole cosmos of present awareness, but you had to squeeze through to get through. You had to become so condensed, focused, in order to squeeze through before you could pop out the other side and realize the wholeness. At which point, well, now you're on this side and that side of the needle. You are the space through the eye of the needle, you are the needle, you're surrounding it. But you had to become so hyper-focused and intense in order to manifest and materialize that experience, that state, that developing, evolving state of mind. So that's what mindfulness is for.
Okay.
But that's deep mysticism. A much more easy to understand, or easy to accommodate, or easy to connect with interpretation of mindfulness, or rather use, function of mindfulness, is to help you settle anxiety, to help you deal with stress. You're caught up in your own thoughts. You're getting overwhelmed with all of your objectives and responsibilities and the demands of life and the pressures that people put on you. Or you're worried, or you're anxious, or you're depressed. Okay, well, let's put all of that down and just be more present in the body. You might notice as you tune into the body, physical person, your body, you might notice when you tune into it that, okay, there's a bit of tension here in this arm. Okay, so when I notice that, suddenly there's just a natural relaxation that occurs. You might notice that tuning into the breath of the body is very relaxing, and that makes you feel better. And that's nice. So you can do that too. You might notice that being more mindful is more relaxing. Not only that, but mindfulness helps you to become very aware of what's actually going on here. Do you realize that all the drama that you're experiencing is because you're stuck in your head? And the moment that you become mindful of the body in the present moment, all of that drama just disappears. And you just get this nice melting relief that comes to you because you've stepped out of that shit. So now what are you doing? Well, you're developing the ability to be more relaxed through mindfulness. That's a really good idea. What does mindfulness mean? To be present. Well, do you have children? Do you know how to be fully mindful with your children? Be present. Feel their energy and love them immediately. In a very relaxed way and very calm and very loving and very present. Mindfulness is very much connected to love. Your ability to experience love is governed by your ability to be present, be mindful. What is love? What is the experience of being in love? To be totally here and accepting and feeling of a person. To bring you here into the present moment with me, to be in love with me here. So that is mindfulness. So can you do that with your kids? Or do you sit there and you look at them and you judge them, their behavior, stupid, idiot? What are you doing? Don't do that. Don't do this. Are you anxious? You're worried for the child. Their behavior is going to hurt them. So now you're putting all of your worry and fear on top of them. Instead of just being totally present with them. Totally accepting of them. In the present moment. Applying your mind, that's your attention, energy, care, thought, kindness, affection for them, applying all of that to them and their current experience of life. Are you that? Can you do that? Or are you too caught up in your own shit to even be able to be here with your own children? It's funny because kids are very good at making you mindful. They're constantly wanting you to do stuff and come here and look at this and play with me and come get me, let's have a tickle fight. They want you to be here too. They are naturally very mindful. Children, look at a baby. You want to know what mindfulness is? Look at a newborn baby. It is totally mindful. Fully here in the experience of being. That is pure mindfulness. So, I don't know where we're going with any of that, but what do you want to do with it?
Well, so mindfulness helps us with the stress and anxiety and dealing with the goings on of the world. What if, like me, you deal with a very untrained, unfocused, undisciplined brain?
Get good.
No. How do you... Yeah, but before that, how do you train your brain to remember to be mindful and to keep coming back to the present moment?
Well, first of all, get good, get better. That's the objective, isn't it? To get good.
Ultimately, yes.
Okay, so naturally, as you get gooder, you get better, you will naturally become more mindful because you will love it. You will love the experience of being mindful. You will love the effect that it has on you. You will love the power that you tap into. You will love the freedom that you develop. You will love the relaxation. You will love the expansion of your capacity for being, for living, for loving, for becoming a full human being. So, as you get good, naturally the outcome of your inquiry into mindfulness is that your mindfulness will get better and better and better. Because the whole of your life improves. The whole of your experience improves. One example of it is, you can be practicing mindfulness. I did this with a student once upon a time, just to give them the tiniest little insight into, well, their current experience of life versus what it's like to be mindful. And we were sitting on a bench overlooking an ocean inlet. And I said, okay, just stop for a second. Sitting here on this bench, stop for a second. Right, I want you to notice your vision and what you can see. And I want you to sit here looking forward and just let your eyes relax and notice what your eyes are naturally looking at, the object. When you fully relax your eyes, don't close your eyelids or anything. Just notice the object in front of you that your eyes rest on, that your vision rests on. Okay, now just look at that object. Now from there, without moving your eyes, I want you to allow your focus in your vision to expand and begin to take in the peripheral vision. Now we were sitting on a bench, looking over an ocean inlet, high up on a bench on a hill, and there were lots of flowers in front of us and grasses and trees, and the view expanded to take in the ocean, and then obviously the blue sky and the whole of the ocean in the background. In that instance, this person that I was sitting with went from being caught up in her head and her thoughts about herself and her life and all of her experiences and what she wanted to do later and all the rest of it, to suddenly directly perceiving the experience of seeing the world and the earth and all of the energy of the earth, the ocean and the sky. In that moment, she'd stepped out of her thoughts and into the direct experience of being present. And for her, that was mind-blowing. And that's one little drop, like taking a little dropper of some golden elixir and just giving you the tiniest little drop of it, of the ocean of energy of life itself. Imagine all of the chi of the cosmos. You take a little dropper of it and just drop it into your present experience. It's enough to totally transform all of the energy of your life in that moment. Relaxation happens. This energy, this excitement arose in her as if, I can't believe I haven't ever noticed this before, and it's right in front of my face. As you start to have experiences like that from a single drop of mindfulness, you want more and more and more and more. And just the very fact of being present can be so orgasmically, wonderfully blissful and entertaining and joyful and incredible and fascinating and pleasant that you suddenly don't feel like you need to chase after so many things in life. And the idea of spending 20 or 30 years to try to impress people and reach some kind of position in life is suddenly insane to you. And all you want to do is sit here and just be here, totally content with the fact that you're already here. Now try adding those little experiences into your diet in a day. Whatever it is you think you're eating in the world, try dropping in little experiences, little doses of experience itself. By the way, that's where God lives, so if you want to get to know that, that's where the force of reality itself lives. So what do you think you're connecting with as you're becoming mindful? And you want to try to hold on to your problems, your ego's worries and anxieties about whether you've got the bills paid next week or not. Not to mention the fact that as a human being, you become so in love with other beings, other people, and the life here that you have. So helpful and so kind and so supportive that all of a sudden your life begins to take a turn and a direction that you couldn't possibly have done it on your own, trying to manufacture some kind of strategy to make it all come together. Instead, you just fall in love with everyone in your life, and you want to help and support them, and they fall in love with you in return because you're connecting with them very deeply. And now it becomes very easy to pay your bills. It becomes very easy to sort yourself out. This is the way into the love-based economy that we've spoken about briefly before. For people to wake up to the reality of mindfulness and fall deeply in love with each other fully, I'll help you take care of your life, and you will help me take care of mine, because we are the same life. Our mindfulness is shared. Are you here with me in the same experience? In the same quiet, calm, content, loving experience? That's where you end up, which, by the way, is where God lives too, so he's kind of got your back, you know. I can't remember where we were going with that, but somewhere along the lines of, as you begin to inquire into mindfulness, it automatically, the momentum and energy of that mindfulness automatically overwhelms you in all of the most wonderful ways. And so it does the job by itself. Yeah. I'm not sure if that answered the question, but did it?
Yes. I asked about how people with untrained brains,
Just
unfocused,
do it.
undisciplined.
Just do it. Get
Just
good.
get
I'm
good.
serious. That's the answer. You didn't hear it, but get good.
Get
Get
good.
good. Get good at it. I know you're not good at it. Nobody's good at it to start with. So get good at it. How do you get good at something? You keep doing it. You practice
Keep on going.
the practice. Why is it called the practice? Because you can't do it. So you've got to practice to get better. So get good at it. Set yourself up each day. How do you remember to do something? Well, what do you want? All right. You want to be able to remember it when you first wake up in the morning. Okay, well, put it on your walls. So when you're laying here and you're laying in bed, you know for a fact you're going to open your eyes in the morning and you're either going to be staring at the ceiling or you're going to be staring at the wall. So put a poster on the wall that says, today, be mindful. Put it on the roof. So as soon as you open your eyes, okay, great, I've got you. Start me off in the right direction. Program it. There's plenty of ways to do it. Wear a bracelet. Get a tattoo. Get a tattoo on your finger there. Be more mindful. Write it on your glass when you're drinking your water, so that when you finish your glass of water, there's a little sticker at the bottom that you've sellotaped in there on the bottom of it. Be more mindful. Okay, great, awesome. Set an alarm on your phone, on your watch, on your smartwatch, or on your phone every hour. A little reminder. Are you practicing mindfulness? Be more mindful. Get it in your journal so that when you go and check your job for the day and what your schedule is and what you've got to do, there's a little note there that you've left for yourself. Be more mindful. How do you remind yourself of anything? But eventually, if you're into deep mysticism, deep monasticism, deep mind, you want to walk around in that mindfulness all day long. So you train yourself, even while you're eating, to be more mindful. Slow down. Be mindful of every breath and every flavor and every sensation and every taste of the food, every fiber of the meat that you eat, or the vegetables that you eat, or the fruit that you eat, or the chocolate that you eat. Eat a piece of chocolate and just sit there and watch it with your attention dissolve in your mouth and fill every crevice around you. Experience. As you're drinking your water, drink it slowly and be in the cool temperature of the water, and just feel that coolness as it enters your mouth and goes down your throat and actually comes down into your belly, and feel that almost like an icy wave begin to permeate through, radiating through the cells in your body as each cell is hydrated by the water you've just drunk. Fill your day with it. Desire it more and more and want it more and more. And then get good at it. Practice it. Do it as much as you can.
What if you're dealing with a rebel inside your brain? How do you overcome the rebel?
It gets overcome naturally as part of the process, because you keep following the rebel and it keeps making you fucking miserable. So eventually you lose hope in it, you lose faith in it. You keep following the rebel, it gets you distracted, so you sit here for a week not doing anything and you end up getting distracted and caught out. And then all of a sudden it hits you, oh my god, I did it again. I followed the rebel. I feel like shit this week. I've lost all my disciplines, I've lost all my practices, I've lost all of my focus. I really don't like living that way. It makes me feel horrible. And that just naturally, over time, means that the rebel loses the ability to take you. Not to mention the fact that as you get better and better at focus and developing the discipline of ignoring the rebel, you get good at ignoring the rebel. So it's kind of it's also self-contained. The process of awakening is also self-contained. But, you can get better at it. Like, all right, you want to get better at cooking food? Well, go and spend more time in the kitchen. All right, so you want to get better at mindfulness? Well, spend more time being mindful. Do it more. How much have you done it today? Have you set aside a whole hour today to sit in total presence? Well, if not, why not? You want to get better at mindfulness? Well, why aren't you doing 1 hour a day of sitting and just being here and not moving? There's a billion things you could be aware of right now, right here on this bed. Elements of the body, elements of the psychology, sensations of the body, colours, certain objects that you can see, wrinkles of that sleeping bag over there, the light shining in off of that keyboard, the sounds that you can hear, the vibration of the traffic as it's driving by, the blood pulsing through the body, the pulse of the body, the tension that's flowing is sitting there in the body that's asking to be relaxed, pain that might be there. You could be mindful with that, sitting there. The rising of the breath and the falling of the breath. A pulsing in the throat here. The grass over there in the distance, I'm not even looking at it, but in my periphery I can see the swaying of this shape, light shining off that shape. Where are you? There's a billion things here, endless. And you sit and look at the object there, and as you look at it, you suddenly see shadows and contours and shapes and reflections and lights, and you keep looking at it and it starts to go like this. Yeah, right. Well, what's going on there?
Yeah,
what's happening there? What's happening there? If you sit and look at an object and you don't take your attention off it, what happens to the nature of perception itself? Does perception begin to warp? Do you suddenly begin to detect the space and the distance between the eye and the object? Well, what's in the space? What happens if you sit and stare at the space? You can't answer any of these questions if you're not willing to be here. Where the hell are you? What is mysticism? This. What is this? Answer that for yourself. Be here with it. Get to know it. You're running around chasing 1,000 ideas all the time. 1,000 objects are stuck in your head, and you're trying to make them all real. Okay, well that's fine. That's self-mastery, sorcery. Yeah, great, we do that too. But mysticism is the totality of that. Stop making it all about what you want and take in the whole of the experience itself. The great mystery of what the hell this thing is here that's happening. Which includes the body and the psychology and the person and the earth and the aliens and the interdimensional consciousness and time immemorial and space before matter came into being. The great void which contains all things. You won't get to know it. Well, what do you think mindfulness is for? Mindfulness is the key with which you unlock the door of mysticism. So how deep do you want to go? How much do you want to do? That's up to you. Nobody will make you do it. But don't be surprised if you won't sit here in presence with the experience. How the hell can you ever hope to get to know it? How the hell can you ever hope to get to know the nature of this life if you will not sit here and be with it? Instead, you're focused on what you want from it. I want this object, so I'll go to work and earn a certain amount of money to get this object. What does that have to do with reality? What does that have to do with the nature of consciousness? Oh, I want to sit here and begin to visualize and imagine all the things that I want because I'm a manifestation queen. Well, that's glorious, but what the hell does that have to do with anything real? You're just conjuring more illusions and fantasies to play with. So you will not answer questions about what is consciousness, what is reality, what is deep mysticism, what is the abyss, what is in the deep darkness. How do you travel so far back in time before matter even came into being to meet the origin of life itself? How can you get there? You won't stop chasing ideas and thoughts and objects and possessions and ego shit. What you want, you won't stop. So until you stop, how the hell can you ever get good at mysticism? And mindfulness is the way in which you can introduce yourself to presence. And then stay present. And stay present enough until the whole of reality is realized as you, in you. No questions asked. And there's nothing more to it. Well, that's it. Just do it. Now you got to get good.
Okay.
Or get gooder.
Get gooder. How do you mentioned self-mastery before? How does mindfulness and self-mastery go together? Why are they? Why would you cultivate them both at the same time?
Mindfulness and self-mastery.
Yeah.
Well, mindfulness is the way in which you come into contact with the self. Mastery of the self means knowing the self extremely well and making full use of it to evolve, to evolve in whichever way you want. To know it. What is mastery? To aspire towards perfection. Or excellence, rather. Perfection isn't a very good term, but excellence. To refine something so well to become a master of it, to know it intimately, to know its nature, its operation, its function, to know every element of it, every layer of it, every angle, to observe it from every angle, to twist it and turn it in every possible ways, to master the object, to master the thing. And if you can't be mindful, to be mindful means to be present with the self. So you have to be able to be mindful in order to begin to experiment in self-mastery. So they're absolutely essential. That question is the same way as saying, well, how can you ever hope to cook a dinner, food, excellently, to a very high standard? You want to go in and cook a chicken breast with the skin on. Okay, well, you could chuck it in a pot of boiling water. That's fine. But is that excellence? Or is excellence the kind of thing that a professional, lifelong chef would have refined over years and years by chucking it in a pot of boiling water to start with and see what that's like? Eat that. Okay, well, that's fine. But what happens if you go in and you flambe it? And you get the skin all nice and crispy and brown. And then, not even then, but you take the skin off and you put it in the grill, and then you take it down and you put it back on. And not only that, but if it's a chicken breast, you might have like an orange roulade. I don't even know what that is.
I don't know where you're pulling this stuff from.
It's like a sauce, a sweet orange sauce. When it goes with the chicken, it complements it excellently, and then you put in a few herbs and a few bits and bobs. Okay, well, now that's a much better dish to eat. Take that to Gordon Ramsay and he'll be a little bit impressed with you. He won't be impressed with a boiled chicken. Boiled chicken breast. But Gordon Ramsay's interested in the excellence of the breast. The chicken breast. Alright, so what are you doing with yourself? Are you refining your psychology, your body, your energy, your attitude, your awareness, your mindfulness? Are you refining it in mastery, self-mastery? Mindfulness is required in order to hold the object here and be with it, the body, the emotion, if emotion is even necessary, the operation of the psychology, the attention of the body, the attention of mind, and the energy of mind. You have to be mindful with the energy in order to cultivate it, in order to hold the focus, the energy, hold it in a certain way, move it in a certain way. If you can't be mindful, you don't have enough focus to be able to even move it. How can you hope to master the variation and fluctuation of the breath, and how that impacts the energy of present experience, if you can't hold your attention mindfully long enough to actually impact the breath? So if you're not going to walk into the kitchen and pick up the tool and grab the chicken breast and begin to experiment with it, mindfulness is going to keep you in the kitchen long enough. So if you can't be mindful of the problem, then you're going to walk into the kitchen and you're going to pick up your phone and your mate's going to call you and you're going to walk out and go to the pub because you can't focus. Your objective is to be in the kitchen cooking as a master. Become a master of that meal. And spend a year in the kitchen. There's enough food in there to feed yourself. There's a toilet around the corner. You don't need to go anywhere. You can sleep on the floor. Fine. Go and master the kitchen. I'll come back in a year and you will be much more mastered. You'll be able to cook a lot more dishes. You will have refined your excellence to a higher standard. That's self-mastery. And if you can't develop mindfulness enough to stay in it, then you have no hope of ever reaching any kind of masterful heights in your exploration of this life. It just won't happen. So in other words, that's like saying you want to be a cook, a masterful chef, but you haven't got a pan. You haven't got a pot to piss in. You haven't got a knife. You haven't got a cooking board. You don't even know where to get the ingredients from. Well, mindfulness is what helps you find all of those objects in the kitchen. So Mindfulness is essential. Absolutely essential.
Okay. So, how does meditation, so how does sitting down and allotting time to meditate help improve our mindfulness throughout the day? Why is
Well,
it important to have to do both?
they're the same thing.
Yeah.
Mindfulness, you could say, refers to meditation in action.
Okay.
This, if you want to give the term meditation, the label meditation, to sitting with your eyes closed, is that what you said?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if we're calling that meditation, then mindfulness is that with your eyes open and your body being active.
Right.
It's the same process. All right. So you're going around, you're walking through the day, you're sitting here, and you're totally in the experience as it's happening. You can hear the sounds, you can feel the body breathing, you can feel the sensation of the body, the skin sitting against the bed. You can feel the breath rising and falling. Okay, well, you're being mindful of the body present. You can be mindful of the what your eyes can see and what your ears can hear. Great. When you close your eyes, your vision is obviously cut off, or rather you're not seeing any external objects anymore because you've closed your eyelids. All you can see is the light, or the simultaneous darkness behind the eyelids and the light that actually still penetrates your eyelids. So you're seeing simultaneous darkness and light at the same time. Now if you can sit in that place long enough, your attention will be taken away from what we call if you want to call it, the external world, the physical world, and you can suddenly become aware of a complete inner dimension. Now in meditation, we're now becoming mindful of in this kind of meditation where we sit with our eyes closed, we're now becoming mindful of the inner world as opposed to the outer world, which we tend to focus on when our eyes are closed. In fact, they are the same thing. Even the outer world is contained inside your mind. There is only inside. There is no outside. But if we sit with our eyes closed, then we can focus long enough on the experience of watching the back of the eyelids. It is possible to begin to detect mind, let's call it the environment of mind, where consciousness itself sits or comes into being, and also at times disappears and dissolves. And so if it can be witnessed that the arising of consciousness, the coming into being of identity and perception and all the rest of it, is occurring in the space of mind, but the space of mind never moves, that life and death, being born and coming into being, happens within mind, but mind itself does not move, and you are there as that. You, as mind, are never-ending, unmovable, unmoving, containing all matter, every atom of experience, perception, identity, whatever you want to call it. Life and death all happen in mind. So mindfulness is that, but inward. And if we call this meditation, this watching, present experience, in this way we can begin to detect what is often called the subtle dimension of your consciousness, whereas eyes open, solid material matter is gross. It's not subtle, it's gross, it's dense, it's heavy, it's also obvious. It's very obvious. But the subtle dimension of consciousness inside is not so obvious, and is often very fleeting and very difficult to perceive. But there is a whole cosmos of experience inwardly too, And there are very, very deep and powerful states of mind to access, to tap into, and very powerful forms of energy to unlock. In the language of classical mysticism, and when I say classical, I mean just very clear and clean language, it's possible if you sit in meditation long enough and you develop enough awareness of mind itself, the place where even the whole universe comes into being, it is possible to go all the way back to the origin of life itself. The moment when what scientists call the Big Bang, the moment when the universe came into being, which happened in mind, the mind of God. So if you can get all the way back that far, you realize the mind of God as your mind. That's enlightenment, to know awareness as self, the awareness which is the mind of God, which has been here forever, will be here forever, which every atom in the whole of life knows its origin as. In other words, all things are from you, all things return to you, all things are you, all things are within you. You are that which gave rise to all life. You are one with all things, and all things are one with you, and all things are one with everything else too. And only the unfortunate, or rather let's call it less evolved state of beings, people, or entities or beings who have not fully connected, or perhaps are just ignoring the fact that they are one with everything, or denying it, or lying to themselves, or hiding from the fact. In other words, hiding from the truth. Unfortunately believe that they are separate and have fallen into a kind of twisted nightmare dream in the mind of God. And for some reason they're all running around attacking each other, trying to murder each other, building fancy weapons of war to try to annihilate each other in absolute insanity. In other words, a little bit of God has forgotten what it is and is trying to eat itself for some reason, and it's very strange. But that's all part of it as well. And you're now freed from that insanity because you've come back to the whole mind of life. And so in this meditation, deep watching, which happens with the eyes open as well, it's just that it's a really funny thing happens when your eyes are open. It's like it really looks like there's stuff here. It really looks like there are physical objects, or like boxes, or like rooms and houses and places, like a 3D sense of time. But if you can detach from that perception for long enough, which closing your eyes and sitting still really helps you to do, your experience, your perception of mind itself can broaden, and you can begin to reintegrate and reconnect with the truth of what you are, which is absolutely everything. And if you can focus in that and be in that long enough to realize mysticism, in other words, become a mystic, you go back all the way to the origin, before the universe came into being. You see the universe die, you see the end of time, and you realize life beyond that. People call that death, but you realize life beyond death, that the death is part of the illusion. It's just something that the matter experiences, not the invisible, immaterial part of you. And so you realize immortality, as the Taoists like to call it, or Buddha mind, as the Buddhists call it. You realize Buddha nature, awakened nature. You realize enlightenment. You find God in the language of Christianity. You realize what Jesus realized. You find union in the language of yoga, union with all things. You could just say in a modern language, you find the truth, you find reality, and it's wonderful. So that's why mindfulness and meditation are the same thing. And if you really want to get good at this kind of meditation, where you sit with your eyes closed and you're sitting still, being mindful, because being mindful is really that same thing but with your eyes open. If you get really good at just being present, mindful with the experience here, when you close your eyes, you're just automatically continuing the same practice. So it's like you just slip into deep meditation straight away because you've actually got deep awareness. You've got deep mindfulness through the day, and deep, as we've explained before, deep means long. It's not deep meditation if you do it for 3 minutes. It's deep meditation if you do it for 30 years. Long time is deep. So because you've been practicing it all day, when you close your eyes, you're already deep. You're immediately deep. Whereas if you just get caught up in the world, and this is what it's like for people in the beginning, you get caught up in the world, you're involved in all the activities and all the goings on, and you've spoken to all your friends, and you've done all the tasks, and you've done everything, and then you go and sit down to meditate, and you close your eyes, and your brain's still going a million miles an hour on all the objects.
Not full of distractions.
Because that's what you've had all day. So now you have to sit with your eyes closed and try to settle that and wind it down a little bit. Whereas deep mindfulness means the second you close your eyes, it will be totally quiet in there. It will be like the ending of the rain. You've had the torrent, but the second your eyes close, it just, like the rain just dies off immediately, and the sun, the light, warmth and heat of the sun just blares into you. The brightness of your own mind at a very deep level just immediately shines through because you've been cultivating that all day long. So yeah, they go hand in hand. Like bro and sis.
Good one, bro.
Good one, sis.
Thanks, bro. So how, for people that are still involved in the friends and the family and all those things, all these world of distractions, how can they set their world up or set their lives up in a way that encourages mindfulness to flourish?
Keep coming back to a total awareness of the present moment. You have this kind of impulse in you that's like this, jump on it.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Something comes up, jump on it. You hear a sound, somebody shouts from over there, and you just like, it's like this, jump on it. Sort of like grasp at it, grasp at it, grasp at it.
Yeah.
You have this kind of function in you. It's like you just pull, you allow yourself to get pulled into what's happening, all right? All you have to do, no matter where you are, no matter what's going on, no matter whether there's family around you or children or jobs or whatever, no matter where you are, for a second, just step back. Don't jump in. Go the other way. Step back into a total awareness. Not get sucked into a little bit of it, an object of it, a sound of it, a person. That's like you're getting pulled into a little object in the present experience. Learn to just bring your attention fully back, take in absolutely everything and all of the senses at once. The whole body and how it feels. The whole sound, spherically, surrounding you as your body, if you want to be a body for a minute. The whole vision, without taking in anything specific, take in the whole vision. And learn to maintain that. For you, in that place, if you can realize or crystallize that place, life becomes automatic. And that's it. When I say life becomes automatic, meditation becomes automatic, enlightenment becomes automatic, your relationships become automatic, your job becomes automatic, your presence becomes automatic, eating becomes automatic, shitting becomes automatic, sleeping becomes automatic. Deep states of mind, powerful deep states of mind, the awakening of energy inside you, all becomes automatic. All you have to do is take a step back and stay there, stay back. Stay back. So that's why the Buddha said, you know, the one thing that determines if somebody can realize my teaching is focus. Focus on what? Focus on taking a step back all the time. 24 hours a day. Focus. Take a step back. Even now, come back to it. Back to the breath. Back to the body. You can do stuff. Body starts to get hungry. Right, time to cook. Hungry time. The brain will even conjure up an idea of what to eat all by itself. Let it do it. You can be in the background. And deep states of mind will pop out of you like eggs popping out of a chicken's butthole. That's where they come from, I believe. They will just pop out.
I can't clarify.
These deep states of mind, these enlightened states of mind, these powerful insights, these awakenings will pop out of you like chickens. Out of other chickens. Just automatic. Chickens don't try to lay eggs, you know. They don't try. It just happens.
Because they focus.
Because they're just hanging out. Chickens. Hanging out as chickens in the nest, in the coop. So you just hang out in the background. Be mindful, fully. Let the body be, let the brain be, let the world be, and you be mindful. And I think that's enough to conclude today's podcast.
Okay.
All right. Rock and roll.
Yeah. Did you want to do a short mindfulness exercise, or should we do that in a separate video?
Let's do that in a future video, because we'll do like a full, maybe 15 or 20 minute breakdown.
Okay.
Like a full guide.
Okay.
We'll call it guided mindfulness.
Okay.
It'll come out, probably we'll do that next. Maybe we'll get into that one tomorrow.
Okay. So look out for that.
Yes, and we would like to express our heartfelt thanks and gratitude to you, watchers, viewers, people who comment, this, you know, the people who are subscribing to the channel. It is very nice to be able to connect with you. We're very interested in hearing a bit more from you. I would love to know who I'm talking to and what your story is, what your experience is, where you live, how's it going in the world, how's life there, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? And also, one question I did want to ask specifically is, if you want to answer it, what is your connection to mysticism? What is your experience of mysticism? And also, are you familiar with self-mastery and the world of self-mastery? And what are you getting out of the videos? Yeah, we would very much love to have some interaction. And I just wanted to say that.
Cool.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching.
Goodbye for now.